What makes a great cast? In most forms of media, a great cast could be the difference between memorable and forgettable. What factors do we consider when we talk of a great cast? Is it the number of characters, the story being told, or how well they are handled? Is it better to have a large cast or a smaller cast? Or does a great cast matter at all? A great cast for me is one in which at least 70% of the main characters have a role to play in the overall story. This means that most of the characters aren't there to fill up the numbers. They are there to fulfill a purpose, and the story is what defines the purpose. A great cast in general involves characters that you can stick in many situations and they can make it work. The dynamics of these characters are what piques the interest of the viewers. If you look at Marvel's Infinity War for instance, we see the characters break up into many teams in many situations and they are able to make it work, which is a testament to the build-up provided in previous movies. Before we dive into the meat of the matter, don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell for more updates. Now let's look at One Piece. I personally believe that Luffy and the Straw Hats are one of the best and most dynamic casts in all of anime. They could break up into different groups with different sets of characters and still find a way to interest the audience. And this doesn't just work with the Straw Hats. Oda has been able to layer multiple characters in such a way that the dynamic feels natural. The characters bounce off each other well enough to entertain and stir up the feelings of the audience. If you look at the Wano arc, Luffy was paired off with members of the worst generation in their battle against the Yonko, and they were still able to entertain. This was because the strength of their character work was enough to create an interesting dynamic between them, and they were able to make such an intense situation feel lighthearted with the correct balance of humor and seriousness. Two things make the One Piece main cast great, and that is a purpose and a role, which are not the same thing. There is a goal attached to every single member of the Straw Hats and a reason why they chose to become pirates. And outside of this, there are roles that they play as members of the crew. The captain, the swordsman, the cook, the navigator, the doctor, the marksman, the musician, the shipwright, the archaeologist, and the helmsman. These are well-defined roles that the cast play integral to the success of the crew. The story shows a vast world of pirates and thus calls for a large cast of characters. So far in this story, we have come across a bunch of named characters that have played a role in the growth of the Straw Hats and the overall plot of the story. From the villains to the secondary characters, the One Piece cast is broad and meaningful, and while it is hard to balance all these crews in well-defined roles, the great thing about Oda is that each crew embodies a theme, and that is enough to make them feel important even if they are not known by name. A good example of this is the Beast Pirates and the Whitebeard Pirates. One embodies strength and the other embodies family. We see this in their actions as Whitebeard calls his crew his sons, and Kaido sought to create the strongest crew in the world, going as far as giving them artificial devil fruits to raise their power levels. The cast of One Piece also works because of their relationship to Luffy, the main character. Different themes are presented through Luffy's relationship with other characters: competition, strength, fun, a new generation. Luffy's interactions with different characters in the One Piece series set the stage for a well-rounded cast, which is also a testament to his strength as the main character. Another story that I think has a great cast would be Blue Lock. Now, the main premise here is 300 young players locked in a facility with the aim of becoming the best player in the world. Here we are met with a lot of characters and their philosophies that go into playing the sport of football. How these characters intertwine and how they feed off each other really makes for an interesting dynamic in the show. Through its main character Isagi, we can see the perspectives of different characters and how they are able to evolve and grow from his presence in the story. Not only in this sense, but these are characters with their own perspectives on how to approach the game of football and their reasons for playing the game. They are strong enough to stand on their own merit. There is a sense of relatability to the concept of success and failure seen through the eyes of its characters. The beauty in this story is that even though the main character is strong enough to inspire characters like Chigiri and Hiyori to believe in themselves and their ability, he is also ruthless enough to break the dreams and hearts of others like Nico and Naruhaya, all because the story calls for him to do that. In a world marked by competition, the Blue Lock cast and their dynamics make for an interesting story. Now we go into the other kind of cast that I like to call wasted potential. Now these are casts where the characters are likable enough to carry the stories and were relevant for some key areas of the story, but were ultimately forgotten or turned into caricatures for the remainder of the story. In short, there wasn't any balance, and it is here that we find some of the greatest anime of all time. Let's look at Naruto. Naruto is one of my all-time favorites because it has a great main character, great themes, cool fight scenes, and likable supporting characters. The characters and their interactions with the main character make for great character arcs in the story, at least for the first part and some parts of the second, but it is in Shippuden where a lot of wasted potential tends to rear its ugly head. If you look at the Sasuke retrieval arc for instance, this is one of the best arcs in shonen in my opinion because it was a coming of age story for 5 young Konoha ninja, 6 if you include Lee. Here we are giving backstories, motives, purpose for these young boys that are meant to lead the next generation of ninja in the Hidden Leaf, and in Shippuden most of them just fell off a cliff. The cast of characters for the most part do well enough in Naruto, but a lot of wasted potential does not elevate them to the level they should have been at. A whole list of characters were not maximized to their fullest, and even though Naruto the original started off strong by building a dynamic between these characters, cast felt underutilized as the progression of the story demanded more from them. Many of the characters were one note or became flanderized over time. Even though Naruto Shippuden was able to do a lot of things well, its biggest misstep was the handling of some of its characters. Another series that suffers from this is Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen's cast is full of characters that are likable enough to leave an impression on you, but were ultimately underutilized. There is no room to get acquainted with these characters. They have little interactions with each other and aren't layered enough with a purpose to the story. You don't even feel their deaths because you aren't given enough time to spend with them. Things are constantly on the move with no room to breathe. The character's relevance seems to only pop up in situations where they are convenient. JJK does a lot of things well. The action is great, the characters themselves are great, the power system is one of the best I've seen, but the overall cast is severely lacking. Even though the series is all about the action, building your cast to be memorable and not just the primary characters is something necessary for every story. Finally, we look at My Hero Academia. Even though the characters are likable enough, a lot of the casts aren't strong enough to stand on their own. The dynamics between the characters are flat at times. With the number of characters in Class 1A alone, it seems like only a handful got any real development and could work with other characters in any capacity. The rest are left to only pop in to fill in the numbers. The story demanded a large cast and in my opinion there wasn't much balance. Some of these characters are meant to be supporting characters, I know that, but My Hero Academia went out of their way to introduce all of Class 1A by name in the very first season, signifying their importance to the story. The dynamics between these characters are lacking because there isn't much to care about concerning some of these characters. Although the main character Midoriya can embody the heroism of the world that was once lost and become that symbol of hope affecting others around him, there is a lot of wasted potential in Class 1A. There are way too much anime to cover, but I feel like these ones illustrate my point better than most. Let me know in the comments which ones you agree or disagree with, and which anime do you feel has the best cast to you. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.